Welcome to presenting Algorand's very own Oracle service, Algoracle. So we actually have built this sports betting tracker, and we want to include a decentralized sports book on this application by summer 2020. We actually started building this prototype for this hackathon, but we realized we needed an Oracle service to get the information on chain, so we pivoted halfway through. Sports data is complex and time sensitive, so we figured if we can create a secure and fast Oracle for sports betting, we should generalize it in order to build a robust community of feed providers. The team is myself, founder of Gesic. We are a strategic consulting and software development firm. We've also got George Jaguna, CEO of Ineza Telecom, and our very own Ajay Goel, lead mobile developer. And Jason Booker, who's built Chainlink external adapters and has been a great resource in figuring out the architecture. So a quick demo of the app, you can go to algoracle.web.app to test it out. If you want to read from any of these feeds, simply take the contract number into your dApp and read the application's global state. On the testnet here, you can see it's reporting about every 30 or 40 seconds, and that's pretty much how that works. They're all on the same contract right now, but eventually they'll all be on the same, their own contracts. This is where things are different from Chainlink is you can see here, we have two oracles reporting and their addresses. We can see each of their submissions and we can see what it's like. So I only have two endpoints set up, so I'll remove one first and then I'll show you how we can become one. So the way it works is basically to become an Oracle, you set up an endpoint which returns the data in a specific format. So here you see immediately. And this is the format that your endpoint should respond in. Here you can see a test endpoint that I created for the purpose of this hackathon. And then you submit your endpoint, you connect your Algorand account. Normally there'd be a deposit, rewards. We did not think of any of that for the purpose of this hackathon. And you'll notice here, the next time it goes to aggregate, there'll be two oracles reporting. And if you take a look there, any moment now, you can see, there you go, there's two oracles reporting. And that's really just how it works. As whatever APIs are currently submitted, it'll call them, aggregate them on chain, and put the median value on chain, which is similar to how Chainlink does it. Considering we'll be a consumer of this Oracle service, we studied Chainlink, who probably has the best price feeds right now, and looked at what we can copy and if there's anything we can improve on. One pain point for us was that all their sports betting feeds on their market were single source, and we need our Oracle to be as decentralized as possible. So by design, all feeds are always going to be multiple independent sources, which means we have to lower the barrier of entry. So you set up an API as we showed, and you submit that endpoint to the Algoracle node, which takes care of the aggregation. And we use algo tokens throughout the network. We don't want to work with multiple tokens. So moving forward, by early November, we want to create documentation for feed providers on setting up endpoints. We want to build out the Algoracle node to pull data and send it on chain, running 24/7 distributedly. By early December, we hope to onboard multiple types of feeds and at least 20 sources for each feed. We want to be operational on mainnet by late December so we can focus on building our sportsbook. As we neared completion for this hackathon, the Oracle Super Grants was announced. We would like some kind of funding to help us finish up the remaining work. Our ultimate goal for this is to create an open source and decentralized as possible. Here's the tech stack. Let me know any questions. Shout out to the Reach team, who have been an amazing resource throughout this whole process. The APIs we use are simply 12 and CoinMarketCap, and these are the weather APIs we use. And yeah, that's about it for the presentation. Let me know if you have any questions on any of that. I know I kind of blazed through.
Awesome. That was really good, Abdul. Fantastic, nice graphics as well. So judges, I think it'd be good if we could do the questions for any questions for Abdul live, just as I sort out the breakout rooms, which I will do now. So any questions for Abdul?
When do you plan on actually spending a lot of time into the economics of the entire system? See that you focus on the tech, but making sure that slashing or rewarding or incentives are actually done correctly. When do you plan on doing that?
That's kind of, we plan to do that in parallel as we build up the documentation for feed providers. we already have an idea. So, you deposit a certain amount of algos. If you're, for example, if your data is just invalid, maybe 5 times in a row, you get kicked off. If your standard deviation is off by 1, you probably get like 4 more chances to submit before getting kicked off, and maybe slashed. If your standard deviation is way off, like let's say the price of algos is 2 and you report 100, you get booted off immediately and you get penalized. So that's something we're working on in parallel right now as we create the documentation for the feed providers.
I see that you record every 30 seconds. Is that on par with what Chainlink does, or is it better?
If I remember correctly, Chainlink does about every few minutes, if I remember correctly. So it probably could be a lot faster than how Chainlink does it. I think we're only limited by how fast we can pull the data, aggregate it, and ultimately the block speed of Algorand. We had it running at one point every 7 seconds. But of course, we just have 2 feeds right now. I can imagine if we have 20 feeds, we're pulling each one. If any of them is slow, we don't really wait. So ultimately, we want 10 to 20 seconds eventually. That's kind of a baseline. What prevents errant spamming of endpoints? Spamming, or I'm not sure if that's, is there a GitHub or white paper for this project? No white paper. That's what we're trying to work on right now. What prevents spamming of endpoints? So if an endpoint, it's supposed to be decentralized. So if you submit an endpoint and the values are not matching what was already submitted, it'll eventually get kicked off. So you might be wondering, how do you know what other values are if they're valid or not? I think the first 15 feeds, we want to create them ourselves. And then eventually, as one feed comes on, we take one off. One comes on, we take one off, until eventually we have no more feeds live. Maybe have one feed to kind of help with baselining. These are some of the things that we're still working on, but we eventually want to have it moved off and completely open source and decentralized. So yeah, contesting of data for endpoints. No, we haven't looked at that. Access, nice.